Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I have to tell you, it's just great to see the amount of accomplishment going on in District 46, and it's so much fun for me to come back here. One of the great benefits I get out of Toastmasters is that I get to go around the world and have friends in every city that I go to. I have a friend of mine that travels a lot for business, and he goes, "Don't you hate the travel?" Oh, you know, because he lands in an airport and he goes, stays in a hotel room by himself, and he has to fight his way through the city to some appointment. And I said, no, I land at the airport and people are there to meet me and pick me up and then take me out to dinner. It's the best job in the world. And it's great to come back to, like I said, District 46, New York. I love coming to Manhattan. I was sharing the story yesterday. The first time I was here was in 1980. And those of you that don't know my past, I grew up in a little tiny town in Indiana of about 2,400 people. I think it's down to 1,800 now. Our rush hour lasted about 3 minutes because we had a 4-way stop sign in the city that one of the factories let out, and everybody had to stop at the stop sign. That was about the extent of the rush hour. And I remember just being overwhelmed and mesmerized by Manhattan. And then I moved to Los Angeles and came back here about 20 years later, and I went, oh, this is a nice town. It's interesting when I look at that, though, because it's very easy for us to get very comfortable with our surroundings, and we don't really push ourselves outside our comfort zone. And then all of a sudden we find ourselves in like a bigger arena, and we're so uncomfortable with that arena. Just like growing up in a small town, I was so uncomfortable in Manhattan because it was like this big, huge place with all these people. But after I changed my environment, changed my surroundings, and I got used to the activity of a lot of people in Los Angeles, when I came back to Manhattan, it was just like another city I was used to. And I see the same thing happen in Toastmasters. We get used to communicating with people on sometimes a halfway basis, on a one-on-one basis. But then we come into Toastmasters, and you'd probably all agree the first few speeches we give, we're a little nervous, and we're standing up there and we're afraid that somehow the audience is going to stand up and consume us when we get done, and we're getting through those nerves. And after a while we get very comfortable with our club. And then there's this area, and then there's the division, there's the district, and we get to keep going up different levels and continue to expand ourselves from the experience and keep pushing that comfort zone out a little bit. And that's really one of the great benefits I've found of being in Toastmasters for now 21 years. And just to understand what I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to talk about building your club up. And I joined Toastmasters in 1992 and spent about 5 years as one of the key people in my club, turning a failing club around to turn it into a 95-member club and the number 4 club in the world in Toastmasters. And I have a program I do call it Building a Championship Club. Now, we did that. We finished that program with an old Distinguished Club program that Toastmasters had that I actually loved. I'm going to let you know I don't love the current Distinguished Club program. I don't pull my punches when I talk to you. I'm going to tell you the truth about what I found works. I'll tell you the truth, the problems I see with Toastmasters as an organization. Not to rub salt in any wounds, not to be negative about it, but I think we have to have a correct diagnosis of the situation that we're trying to correct and grow. Now, just with that, how many clubs in this room have less than 20 members in them? Any? Okay. How many are over 30? Good. Now, I'll just let you know, that's strong. Now, I hope you, the ones that are over 30, that you don't have like 3 clubs and all 30 members are here. In Toastmasters overall, most of the clubs are struggling below 20 members. They can't get up to that critical mass. And there's some specific things that I've found that we struggled with in my club, and I want to share those with you and see if those are the same things that you're struggling with from that standpoint. To tell you just about how this works, I'm going to just tell you what the history of my club was. We charted in 1989 with 30 members. A year later, we had 6. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Now, did you ever have just, yeah, everybody's gung-ho when you come into Toastmasters, then after about 6 months, they find other things to do. And the members of the club at that point didn't meet for a meeting, they met for coffee. Because they were sick and tired of having a meeting where one person spoke and 5 people listened. Right? And they had to make a decision on what they were going to do. Are they going to keep the club or going to close the club? It's a year old. And that group at that point sat down and decided that they're going to keep the club. And they said, look, if we're going to do this, let's build it back up and have a great club. And they basically rallied their forces together, made the decision to build the club again. And that year, they built it up to 28 members. And Toastmasters had a program that split clubs between 30 and above and 30 and below. And they were a top 10 club in 30 and below because of the growth that they had. Now, I joined in October 1992. We had 35 members. And about 6 months after I joined, we had 12 members coming to the meeting. Does that sound familiar to anybody? And I always like to think that wasn't because I joined the club. I like to think there was another reason that people stopped coming to the meeting. And so once again, there was a group of us in the club. There were about 5 of us. We sat down and were scratching our head. And we had 35 people on the roster. But we only had 12 coming to the meetings. And it was getting very frustrating. The meetings were becoming frustrating, because you have all these speakers lined up and they don't show up. And then at the last minute, everybody's scrambling to come up with the positions that they have. And, you come in and you're not supposed to speak and you wind up doing a speech and you're an evaluator and you're the table topics master and you're the timer all in the same meeting, and you're flipping everything around. And it just wasn't being fun. So once again, a group of us sat down and we said, let's look at what's happening with the club. And we decided if we're going to do this thing, that let's be a top 10 club in the world. It's like, I really give credit to the group I worked with. Because none of us were in this just to have a slowly dying group that we were just constantly giving life support to all the time. Our viewpoint was, look, if we're going to do Toastmasters, let's have a great Toastmasters club. If we're not going to do that, let's go do something else and have a great club. It's like if we're going to put our energy into something, let's win at it. And like I said, I really give the credit to the team we had there because nobody wanted to just have a failing organization in it. Now, we turned around, and I said it took about 5 years to build the club up. It wasn't something you turned it around overnight. It took a while. And I'm going to take you through the steps that we did. Now, there was one thing that happened with us that turned the clubs around both times. And I've told you what it is already. We decided to do it. And what I've seen with Toastmasters, and one of the problems we had in our club, is that it's very easy, what I call, to get caught up in the week-to-week time continuum of Toastmasters. Now, a quick survey of the audience. Does anybody here have anything you do in your life other than Toastmasters? Anybody? Now, of course, we all do. Life has a tendency to pile in on us. And I really feel sorry for you guys that have bi-weekly meetings because you got 2 weeks of life that piles in on you. That's actually even more difficult. At least on a weekly time, you're keeping it sort of, people are staying a little more in the present with their meeting. But it's very easy to get caught up in your Toastmasters meeting and going, we need new members. People aren't showing up on time. Great, let's talk about it next week. Right? Let's talk about it next week. I got some stuff I got to run out and do right now. Yes, we got to handle that. Let's talk about it next week. And our vision that we have, that we work with, is next week. That's all the farther we see into the future is next week. We're going to handle it next week. We're going to handle it next week. And we never sit down and decide, this is what we're going to do. We're going to build the club. Now, Toastmasters has a beginning and an end to the program. Does anybody know what that is? You're welcome to speak. I'll listen to you.
July 1st?
Yeah, July 1st, and it ends June 30th. And we play a game. Just like the NFL does, just like the NBA does, we play a game. How many points we're going to put on the board during our season? Now, I'll just tell you my viewpoint on Toastmasters. It's not a little social club. We get together and sip coffee and play bridge and toast each other, as a lot of people think Toastmasters is that haven't been to a meeting. We are a training school for communication and leadership. You're running a college, is what you're running. And if you were running a college, how would you judge the success of your school? Maybe by the number of graduates that you get through your program every year. That's if you had a school, you'd want to say, and if you had kids, you're going to send them to a college, and a college had a 90% dropout rate. Would you go, I want to send my kids to that school? Or would you want to send your kids to the school that not only do we have a 100% graduating rate, but our graduates go on to great success and earning power? See, so that's how I started to change my viewpoint of Toastmasters. What we actually are, we are a training facility to teach people how to communicate and how to lead. That's what we are. And so our goal was to be a top 10 Toastmaster club. Now, we didn't know what that meant. We had no idea what it meant. And I'll be honest, most of us hadn't read the manuals or anything. So the first thing we did is we sat down and we read the instructions. Now, I got to tell you, some people think I'm a slow learner. Okay, they do. I might be a slow learner. I mean, it took me 13 years of competing to win the world championship. I was 9 when I found out who Santa Claus really was, okay? And I remember that Christmas Eve, my parents sort of pulled me upstairs and they said, okay, we're going to tell you who Santa Claus really is, because I was holding on to Santa Claus with all my heart. Everybody at school's going, are you crazy? No, I still believe. I still believe. And I got to stay up that night, and just so you know, I say I found out who Santa Claus really was, in case some of you in the room don't know yet, okay? I got to stay up that night and put a tricycle together with my dad for my little sister for Christmas morning. And we got it about halfway assembled, and these nuts and bolts are all over the floor. And at 9 years old, my father gave me a very good piece of advice. He said, Lance, when everything else fails, read the instructions. And we got the instructions out, took it apart, and then put it together like we were supposed to put it together. And it worked. Now, the first thing is I said, read your Toastmasters manuals. Now, those of you that haven't read them, I got to tell you, you're missing something, because these things are page turners, man. You pick them up, you can't put them down. I mean, they just suck you right in. Okay, and I'm not going to tell you how the President's Manual how it ends, because there's a big, you know, I'm being facetious here. This is like, you know, they're going to read how I pour concrete and dry it or something, right? I'm reading these manuals, and they don't really distinguish between the important aspects and the unimportant aspects. And quite honestly, a lot of it is how to fill the forms out for Toastmasters International. It's not really giving you the leadership skills you need for the dynamic experience of running the club. So we read the manuals, and we're starting to sort this out. The next thing we did, we were a struggling club. So we go, let's go to the district training. Bright idea. So we go to the district officers training. And I just want to let you know that I came away with one clear conclusion from my first experience at district officer training. Nobody knew how to run a Toastmasters club. Now, have you ever felt that you are the only club in Toastmasters that's struggling on how to make your club work and everybody else is doing pretty well? It's not the case. And I'm going to disabuse you of a few myths that I discovered in Toastmasters. Those of you that were at my talk last night know that I talk about this phenomena that happens to us as we become human beings. I don't know any way to get around it, but this is what happens. And I did this last night, but did anybody here ever grow up in a family? Okay, a couple of you did. Did anybody go to school? Okay, a few of you did. That's good. So we don't have a lot of orphans in the room, and we have a fairly educated group here. When you were a kid, this little infant, the only way we really learn to survive is by being taken care of by the big people. And when we're learning how to live, we look at the big people, the authorities in our life, and we start mimicking our environment. Would you agree with that statement?
Yes.
Right. So we look, and what did mom and dad do? Do you ever find yourself saying something like your parents said? You know, you get in a situation, and we've learned how to handle the situations based on how our parents taught us. Or when we went to school, did you get rewarded for speaking out in class? For going out to recess when you wanted to? No, we were told to sit there and learn specific things and spit specific things back out on the paper. When you went to school, did you ever have to learn anything that you weren't interested in? And did you say, I'm not interested in it? And they said, oh, okay, great, let's find something you're interested in. Is that what happened? No, they said you learned that, and we're going to move you right along. And if you didn't learn it, you got to sit there in that chair for another year. So we learn at a very young age to basically be in sync with the authorities. And our thinking processes turn into this. I have an idea, I have a thought, let me see what the authorities would say before I say it. Now, when you were a kid in your family, did you find that life was a little bit more enjoyable when you were in sync with the authorities of your parents versus being perpendicular with them?
Little.
Yeah, a little. Same thing at school. Now, then we get out into business, and in business we're told what time to come to work, and we might make sure we don't want to rock the boat in the corporate world, and I know that because I got a few people wet a couple times, including myself, up to there. What happens when we come into Toastmasters is we're so used to having some authority above us that is actually helping create our activity, that is seeing that we succeed at what we're doing, just like our parents, our teachers, our business. But the truth of the matter is, there is no higher authority in building your club other than you. That's it. Now, a lot of people I look at, they ask me about Toastmasters International. They go, boy, I wish Toastmasters International would run TV ads so we could get new members in here. I wish they'd promote this organization so we could get new members in here. First of all, it's not cost effective. It's completely impractical. They'd be better off to pay every club $100 per member to get new members in than they would be to run TV ads for it. But really all the club's saying is we don't know how to promote ourselves. We don't know how to tell people how to come into Toastmasters. And here's my viewpoint on Toastmasters International that I developed over a long period of time. See, I used to think that there was this other thing that was going to build the club. And we'd sit around the club, we couldn't figure out why things weren't working well. Well, the reason they weren't working well is we weren't making them work well. That's what was going on. Now, I'll just tell you, my viewpoint of Toastmasters International is this. It's like Home Depot. They have all the supplies for you to build your house. They'll teach you how to wire a light switch. They'll teach you how to lay tile, but they're not going to come build your house for you. You can go get the supplies, just like you can order your supplies in from Toastmasters International. And a lot of those supplies they're training materials, and they'll show you how to do the program, but you have to pick up the ball and run with it. And the one thing I can guarantee you is this was a tough pill for me to swallow. When I was building the club up over the years, the year I was president, I was so excited to lead the club and knew I was going to take it to heights unknown. And then these people weren't doing what I told them to do. And I wanted to strangle them. I wanted to go, what is wrong with you? And here was the tough thing. I had to look at the fact that the level of my club was a direct reflection of my ability to lead. There's nobody else leading the club other than me. And I want to let you know what I was looking at. In 1984, Peter Ueberroth was the executive director, head of the Olympic Committee. He was a phenomenal leader. I got to meet him a few times. I actually just got to meet him about 2 years ago and have a nice talk with him on how much that experience changed my life. But I was way down the line from Peter Ueberroth. I was one of the working ants, okay? But I saw how Peter Ueberroth ran that organization, and I said, if he was running this Toastmasters Club, this would be a dynamic experience. It'd be full of people. There'd be a waiting list to get into it. That's what I aspire to. Why can't I do that? And I can guarantee you that if I came out to your club and looked at your club, that your club represents the cumulative leadership experience and skill of the members in the club. And to me, that is the beauty of the Toastmasters program. Because finally, we get the authorities off our back and we get to see what we're really made of and what we can do to build the club. But it's a tough pill for a lot of people to swallow because we're so used to sort of being in the system. And somebody else is making it happen. Okay? And to be honest, I think there's a huge social issue on this because as we see people move from agrarian societies where they're using their hands to survive every day into highly urban societies where there's so much done for them every day based on the advance of society that we get very lackadaisical in the fact that when we turn the hot water on, it's always hot and there's always water there and we don't have to go out and pump the well and chop the wood and heat the water up. We get away from taking specific actions that actually relate to our survival and our expansion. So we decided, we started getting the training, and what we figured out was that we had to start figuring this out for ourselves. Now I have a little leadership program I teach, and the first rule of leadership for me is you got to take the viewpoint that you got to figure this out for yourself. Now why would that be the first rule of leadership? Let me ask you something. If somebody else figures it out, who's the leader? They are, right? So if you have a leadership position, you go, I don't know what to do, I'm going to let somebody else figure it out. They just took over the leadership position. So you have to start thinking for yourself, and that's what we did. The next thing we did, we had to get the members' agreement. In case you didn't know this, it's really hard to run a club or any organization unless you have the agreement of the people you're running. So we did this amazing thing. I'm glad you're seated. We called them up and asked them why they weren't coming to the meeting. We didn't start guessing and stuff. We just called them up. Now, what do you think the number one reason was that people like to come to our Toastmasters meeting? That they joined Toastmasters? Food, pizza, retirement program, right? Come on, somebody talk to me.
Yes.
What was that? Social. That's good. Personal development? It's up there? Okay, we got a big group here. Listen, here's the number one reason. They wanted to have fun. Number one reason was somebody said fun over here. God bless you. Okay, right there. There's the lady. My grandmother always said you can say anything you want about anybody, as long as you end it with God bless him. Right? That's the ugliest man I've ever seen in my life. God bless him. This makes everything all right. Number one reason was they wanted to have fun. Number two reason was they wanted to see their friends. You guys like the people in your club? You like getting together with them? Number three reason, they wanted the personal improvement. And when we found that, we discovered why our club had failed. We stopped being fun and friendly. We had 2 presidents in a row that weren't fun and friendly. The guy that was president when I joined the club, I'm going to describe him with one word. I'm going to call it draconian. For those of you that don't know what draconian means, it means he sucks the life out of you, okay? And his viewpoint was, I'm going to make this the best Toastmasters club if it kills all of you. So he started changing things to what he thought needed to be done. Speaking slots in this club are not given away freely. You got to earn them. Unless you've been an evaluator or functionary for 3 meetings, you do not earn a speaking slot. Now try to schedule the meeting out now. Oh, I'm sorry, you missed a week and you weren't an evaluator the last 3 functionary. I can't have you speak. It's crazy. We have a hat in the door. You put $1 in when you come in. He goes, $2 if you're late. And then he would call you out when you came. You'd be 2 minutes late and he'd be up there starting the meeting. That's $2. Boy, you really just loved walking in the meeting. But here was the killer. He made speech evaluation pass-fail. Nobody's going to be a competent communicator unless they're a competent communicator. If you have to do that project 15 times, I'd rather have you dead than incapable. And I think the way he really said it was, I'd rather have you dead than incapable. I'm sorry, you're icebreaker. We just didn't get to know you well enough, okay? And I'm a young Toastmaster, right? So I failed a couple people because you come in, I'm just doing what everybody tells me to do. The person quit the club and to this day is still upset with me, and I feel bad about it. So what we did, we actually have, and just so you know, the next president wasn't draconian. He was just this very, very conservative, quiet Englishman. You know, and God bless him. Okay, he's an Englishman. But he used to start the meetings off with, "Good morning. What can one say about today?" And the problem was, it wasn't a rhetorical question. He was like standing there wondering what he could say, and we're going, come on, let's get the energy going in the meeting, let's go. And the first 15 minutes of the meeting, you could hear my teeth grinding. It was so quiet in there. Okay, so what was happening? The meetings were just becoming dead meetings. Nobody wanted to come. So we have policy in our club that we have to keep the meetings fun-friendly. That's the #1 policy. Because as soon as the fun factor goes out, as soon as the energy goes out of the meetings, as soon as it starts to get a little tension in there, and look, we're dealing with human beings. Man, dude, you know, we got some rough edges on us, you know. And I'm going to tell you a story here in just a second. And with this, it's got to be a safe place to fail. And this is a tough thing because the world generally is not a safe place to fail. Do you guys get rewarded handily for screwing up at work? Huh? Did you get like great accolades in school for flunking a test, getting questions wrong? You know, did your parents really like it when you tracked mud in the living room as a kid, when you failed, when you screwed up? No. We get this, you know, thing, just don't hit me anymore because I screwed up. And so what happens is, instead of reaching out and trying and being willing to screw up, it's like we're all a bunch of bank loan officers. You know, I just don't want a bad loan. I'm going to give you a speech, but I just don't want to give a bad speech, so we never reach out and try. And what we have to do is create an environment we encourage failure. Not only from a speaker, but from an evaluator, from a table topics master, from a Toastmaster. And here's the tough one, from your president, from your vice president of education. They've got to be able to fail in the club. They've got to be able to screw up and to start to discover what they're made of. So we have a program or a policy. It's a safe place to screw up and fail. And trust me, we have meetings that run off the rails and people are just pulling their hair out because the person did not put the meeting together properly. Most of our meetings are right on the track, but every now and then you get somebody that thinks they know it all, stands up and changes everything. But I want to tell you one short story that to me was the epitome of a safe place to fail. We had a gentleman that joined our club named, we're going to call him Bruce to protect the guilty here. And Bruce had been in the Navy, and he was in the submarine corps in the Navy. And I don't know if they had him cleaning torpedo tubes or whatever, but his communication skills weren't the greatest when he joined the club. And his first 4 or 5 speeches were sitting up here on a chair having a monologue with himself. I remember one speech, he was trying to figure out what button to push in a space capsule to return him to Earth. And our evaluations were, Bruce, there's an audience out there. You need to talk to the audience. This is public speaking, okay? That's where he started. Now, Bruce went ahead to become one of the better speakers in the club. And Bruce loved conspiracy theories. One year he did an entire CC on the conspiracy that we never landed on the moon. And the next year he did another CC disproving the conspiracy that we never landed on the moon. So one day he has to give a speech, and he goes online the night before and he starts digging up a conspiracy theory, and he comes into the club with full PowerPoint presentations and everything that the Holocaust didn't occur. Had pictures of Auschwitz saying it was an artist colony. Dachau was a training shoe factory that they were teaching people basic skills. Now about half my club is Jewish. And the lady who was evaluating him had lost family members in the Holocaust. Do you think it might have been a little tense? Do you think it wasn't necessarily fun and friendly at that moment? I have been to more cheerful funerals. I'm serious. I've been to funerals that were a lot better than that meeting. And the tension was palatable, and I was the last guy standing at the meeting. And I've got to return it to fun and friendly. And I'm sitting there going, what do I do? Because I know if I let this meeting end, half these people aren't coming back. Half of them are probably going to be dead next week. They're so grief-stricken by what happened. So I stood up and I went back to the fundamentals of what we're trying to do here. And I share this story because no matter what happens, if we know our fundamentals, we stick with the ground we stand on, the solid ground of what we know, it will always protect us. And I went back and I said, what are we trying to do here? This has to be a safe place to fail. So I stood up and I said, let me ask you a question. Let's remember what we're doing in Renaissance Speakers. This is a safe place to fail. Now, do we all agree that Bruce failed? And everybody starts laughing. I said, yeah, Bruce. He's in the back of me. I said, do you agree you failed? And he's back there going, yes, I did. Okay. Yeah, would we rather have Bruce fail in the club here than go out in the world and give this talk? Yes, yes. Okay, great. Bruce, here's my recommendation. Wrong audience. If you're speaking to a neo-Nazi convention, perfect, but not in the club here. And you start to see the blood come back in people's faces, and they become alive again. People are slapping their knees, and they're returning to fun and friendly, and I'm up there going, oh, man. You just feel that bullet go by your ear. It's like, oh man, I was able to salvage this thing from what occurred. But we stick with that. No matter what happens, it's got to be a safe place to fail. We have to embrace the failure that people bring. And that's one of the things that we've really put into the club. The next thing is in getting members' agreement, we had to learn how to motivate people through basically encouragement and inspiration and not force and pressure. This comes back to the authoritative mimicry that we learn. Let me tell you what you need to do to be successful in life. I'm going to tell you how to run your Toastmasters club right now because most of you aren't doing a good job at it. You guys, are you feeling like really endeared to me now? Like this is a great speaker? Right? No, we have to learn how to, like I said, motivate through encouragement and inspiration. And this was a huge challenge for me. We had a guy in the club that had joined. We had about 80 members at this point. And every speech he gave was reprimanding the club on how we were screwing up and how bad we were and how we needed to change things. And after every meeting, I was president. He got to talk to me for about 30 minutes on how can we help you achieve your goals. If you want to change the club, write that up, give it to the executive committee. We'll take a look at it. But how can we help you achieve your goals? And after his sixth speech and after another 30-minute talk, he quit the club. God bless him. There's some people you don't want in your club. And one of the things I'll tell you that one of the great benefits of Toastmasters is we accept anybody. One of the great detriments of Toastmasters is we accept anybody. Yeah? And there are people in Toastmasters, as you know, that they come in the organization. Some of us come in up here in our abilities and we're trying to improve those. There's other people that come down here in their abilities. And they do the program. They've got, like 37 DTMs, and they wear them to every meeting. But they can't speak or lead their way out of a wet paper bag. So as an individual, you've got to sort of look at the source of the information you're getting, because I'll tell you, the number of clubs I visited and the people tried to coach me in speaking and the suggestions they gave me, I'd be homeless in the gutter if I listened to them. Living with the person that gave me the suggestion. Okay? So again, we have to keep that positive side on it. The other thing on the members' agreement, where our club really started to turn around is when we built the agreement that we wanted to be a top 10 club. And it was a common goal that the group had. When I look at the group dynamics of Toastmasters, this is something I feel is missing in the program because most of us get into Toastmasters because we want to have personal gain. We're not looking necessarily at the success of the club. But when we decided that we wanted the club, the organization, to be a winning organization, it changed the dynamic of the membership relationship to the group. How many vice presidents of education do we have in the room or have been VPE? Okay. Have you ever gotten around May and you're trying to get somebody to get through their CC by June or their AC by June and they're giving you some resistance and they're going, I don't know if I really want to do that because I really want to finish it when I want to. And I want it to be my own. And and I just... I mean, I want to shoot him. I just, God bless him. Yeah, God bless him. When we're our club, when we had the group goal, imagine you're the VPE, and imagine you have about 10 members that call you really angry with you because you haven't given them enough speaking slots to finish their CC by June 30th. And their attitude is, I'm not going to be the one that causes this club to be a failure. You find the speaking slots for me. That's how much it flipped around when we had a group goal. Now, we don't have a DCP that rewards the clubs like that anymore. And I'm actually talking to Toastmasters International about, I've mentioned this to them, and I had a great meeting about a month ago with Dan Rex and Sally Noel Cohen, or the two top executives, and I was really glad to do that because I'm not here like, I hope I'm not creating enemies with Toastmasters International. But I told them, I said, I don't pull my punches when I'm out here. I'll tell the clubs what they have to do to be successful, and I met with them, I said, I'm not going to pull my punches with you. I said, nobody at Toastmasters International has ever started a Toastmasters club. Do you know that? Nobody at Toastmasters International, most of them aren't even members of Toastmasters. No. And nobody at Toastmasters International has ever successfully built a club or turned a club around. Like I said, they're Home Depot. They're giving you the supplies. We're the experts. As scary as that is, we're the experts. Okay? So I told Dan and Sally a couple of things. I said, that's what I say when I'm out there. And I told them the Home Depot analogy. And I said, also, I can say things you can't say. And they go, we understand that. Keep saying it. And it was a huge relief off of me because you know how you're sort of saying something and you feel you're pissing somebody off at the process? I'm up here going around I see more districts than the president of Toastmasters does. And I'm out here talking about what you got to do to make your club successful. And I'm just sort of wondering if the things filtering back that I'm saying negative things about TI, I don't want to say negative things. I want to give you the correct perception of that organization. They have huge problems they're trying to deal with. They're expanding to over 130 countries right now. They don't have their nonprofit status in a lot of them. You go to, foreign countries and there are people trying to set up their own Toastmasters serfdoms, and it's just amazing some of the stuff that goes on out there, okay? So they have their hands full. They don't need to come run your club. That's your job, okay? So get the group goal. Get something. We say we're going to be the best Toastmaster. We're going to get more CCs than any club in District 46. We're going to have more. Come up with a goal that you have that group pushes for, and that's one of the dynamics of what it makes a great team. Just imagine if the NFL was played by how many yards individual runners ran and nobody cared how many points got put on the team, on the board. Right? What happens is those teams have a group goal making it to the Super Bowl. That's what makes them great. That's what made my club great. Management continuity. If you want an organization to fail, what you will do is change the leadership in that organization on a regular basis, every 6 months to a year. Have you ever been in an organization that they constantly had to change the leadership? Not only that, if you really want it to fail, what you'll do is as soon as a manager becomes competent, you will replace him with an incompetent manager. Now I got news for you. Toastmasters, as an organization, is designed to fail. Because what do? We take incompetent people, put them in leadership positions until they sort of learn the position, and we remove them and put somebody else who's incompetent in that leadership position. That's just what we do. It's a learn by doing organization. That's how it works. We take incompetent speakers, put them on the stage until they become competent. District governor. He's incompetent until next May, June. Then he's finally figured it out. It's time's up. Time's up. Get somebody in there that doesn't know, somebody else that doesn't know what they're doing. In order to work this out, and I tell you, the strong clubs I've been to, the strong clubs have this system. I call it the elders. It's like the old Indian system. You got the chief. You ever watch Dances with Wolves? They bring out the Spanish helmet. They got the chief, but he's got the elders behind him that he goes and consults. Well, we had about 5 or 6 of us in the club that sort of became the elders. And what we were doing was we were running an ongoing program through the years. So what happens if just the president and the existing executive committee is the final authority or the final management terminals in the group? You have a group that comes in and they do really well and your club grows. And then another group comes in and they go, look how great the club's doing. And they stop doing everything they did. And you get this roller coaster effect of your clubs growing and dying and growing and dying. We had continuous growth for about 7 years, and we leveled off. And then when they changed the Distinguished Club program, which I didn't like, it took the game away from us. So we played against ourselves for 2 or 3 years, and that got to be sort of boring. And then we started getting down. My club is between 35 and 60 now is where we stay. Okay? But you have the elders. Now, said strong clubs have the elders. There's another program that a lot of clubs have. It's called the Godfather. There's one person in the club. One person that's the authority. And you get elected president, and you have to come up and kiss their ring. You know? And they go, someday I'm going to ask you for a favor. But until then, enjoy being president. I don't think this is healthy. It's all the control. As a matter of fact, there are districts in Toastmasters that have a Godfather in them. That they're not a district officer, but they're controlling everything from behind the scenes. Like I said, we are a microcosm of humanity. And if it exists out there, it exists in here. We applied Colonel Saunders' secret recipe. Who knew? Grew up in Indiana. My dad had a couple of restaurants. Not only was the chicken different in each restaurant, it was different shift to shift in each restaurant, depending on who was cooking it. This is back in the 70s. He had a buddy that had a KFC franchise, and he snuck him into the Colonel Saunders chicken cooking school to learn how to cook chicken. And I'm 14. I'm going to be one of the only kids at school that knows Colonel Saunders' secret recipe. What are the herbs and spices? And I remember all the kids met my dad at the door when he came back. He comes walking in with 2 suitcases in his hand, and we didn't even let him get in the door. And we're going, what are the herbs and spices? What's the secret recipe? And he goes, Colonel Saunders laughs at that. He says, everybody thinks the secret recipe is the herbs and spices. He said, the secret recipe is so many pounds of chicken and so many pounds of fat at a certain temperature, certain time, certain pressure, taken out, put in an oven at a specific temperature, specific amount of time. He goes, all I do is I do the ordinary, but I do it extraordinarily well. And that's what we have to do with our clubs. There's no magic dust, no secret herbs and spices that we can throw on our club. We have to sit down and start doing the ordinary things extraordinarily well. And I'll share with you some of the things that we did in my club to make it extraordinary. We stopped having a meeting. Meet is a 4-letter word. There's 3 reasons people don't like to come to meetings. They don't start on time, they don't end on time, and everything in the middle is a waste of time. We started having an event. We created an event mentality. And if you come to our club, it is an event mentality. Every meeting is themed. We have music. People will bake cookies. They'll bring chocolate in. They'll have something going on. You never know what you're going to walk into, but it's always exciting, and somebody has some twist and creativity that they put into it. Critical point. The strong clubs in Toastmasters do this. The weak clubs in Toastmasters don't. We start running in the event on time. In order to do that, you have to have all your scheduling set up so that everybody's arriving on time. Everybody's pre-confirmed, programs are put together. The Toastmaster knows how to run the meeting and bring it in on time so that we get in and out of there at the same time. My club at one point was starting about 10 minutes late. And what happens, we started ending about 20 minutes late, and the membership was dropping off. And that was one of the things I put in when I was president. Was we're going to start this meeting on time. It took 3 months for my club to start showing up on time. And many times I started the meeting with 2 or 3 people in the room. But I said, I'm going to start it at 9 o'clock. We have a weekend meeting, just so you know. We have a 3-hour meeting on the weekends. But it's a phenomenal experience, so you know. Started on 9 o'clock, and I'll get you out at 12. And it took about 3 months for people to get used to that. But now, man, the Sergeant at Arms is up there starting that thing right on time, and we're driving to get out right at 12. I mean, sometimes we'll go 2 or 3 minutes over, but we're right on time. And that's one of the skills we learn in communication, in leadership, is how to run a meeting. I'll be honest with you. All it takes to rule the world is to know how to speak in public and run a meeting. Look at what the President of the United States does. He just speaks in public and runs a meeting. We could take over the world, just us right here. I don't think Toastmasters International would like me doing that. Anyway, set up the room early, ready to go. Good, strong clubs, everything's set up. You feel like you're walking into the event. Weak clubs, everybody's showing up at the last minute. Where's the gavel? Where are the ribbons? I don't know. We're going to start on time. Okay, start. 5-minute recess. That doesn't count. Okay, we have a good venue. Oh, venues. I've been to so many clubs. You know, there's a goldfish bowl syndrome where the goldfish won't grow bigger than the bowl. I've been to clubs that have no chairs for guests. How many guests do they get? None. I've been to clubs that the chairs are so tight together you can't get up to speak. Probably one of the worst ones I went to was when I was competing, I was going out to a lot of clubs giving my speech. And so I went to this one church and I walked into it. It was like Tuesday night. Walk up in the sanctuary, nobody's there. It's dark. I come back down. There's some stairs going down to the basement. I'm looking around where this club is. There's no signs. I walk down. I look down the hall. I see a light coming out of a door down there. And I'm walking down this dark hall. I'm a little afraid I'm going to trip over a mop bucket or something because I can't really see what's going on. I get down to the end of the hall. I look down the door, and there's another door about 10 feet in, and I hear some voices. So I walk in there, and I come around the corner, and they go, "Oh, he's here." I looked up. There's like a 100-watt light bulb hanging from a couple wires. There's choir robes up on the corner. There's Christmas ornaments up over here. We got this sort of rickety table, and I sit down on a three-legged metal chair that sort of fall. I didn't feel like I was in a dynamic communication and leadership program. Felt like I was planning a clandestine revolution to take over the world. I don't want anybody to find us here, you know? So you need a good venue, and that venue needs to have a professional environment, and it has to be a safe place to fail. I don't recommend open dining rooms at Denny's, where you got Barney and Betty having a grand slam breakfast, and Bruce is up here giving an anti-Semitic talk. Okay, that's not a healthy place. You know, next morning on the headlines of the Wall Street Journal, there's like 37 lawsuits against Denny's for an anti-Semitism, right? No. Professional environment. You need to have something people feel that they are expanding into. My club's a weekend club, so we had people showing up in sweats, sandals, and a coffee, and sleep in their eye. Morning. How do you think the meetings were? Morning. So we just said no jeans, no t-shirts. We went you higher than that. A little nicer than that. We just changed the attitude. You decide what's right for your club. The funny thing is we have guests that come. A lot of us wear suits. A lot of us, you know, we really create a nice environment. We meet in a small theater. We have stage lights and the whole thing. It's great. Guests come in in sweats and sandals and a t-shirt. And they'll walk in and they go, "Oh my gosh." We go, "No, that's fine. You're welcome to come in. You're welcome to come." Just never do that if you're a member. Speaking frequency, here's where our club took off. I'm going to tell you why. In order to be a top 10 club, we had to get as many people through the program as we could. And this was a surprise. I did not expect it. This is what made the difference. And this is, right now, if you want to know, why Toastmasters is struggling like it is. We ask every member to complete a speaking level every year because we wanted completions to get our points. But what happened when people started speaking frequently is they started to get the benefits of the Toastmasters program. Now, I look at Toastmasters sort of like an exercise program. Now, have you ever gone to the gym when you haven't worked out very often? How do you feel the next day? You're sore. Now, what if you went to the gym and you worked out and you said, "I am so sore, I'm not going to go back to the gym for 6 months." What's going to happen when you go back to the gym? You're sore again because you lost all the gain you got going to the gym. So the same thing happens in Toastmasters. Somebody gets up and they give their speech and they were petrified. It was horrible. They were nervous. They couldn't think straight. And they go, "That was so horrible, I'm not going to speak for 6 months." Like they're going to get better. Speaking's a muscle. You got to exercise it. And most of our speaking muscles are extremely atrophied. So when we got people speaking about every 3 to 4 weeks, what happens? They started keeping the gain from every speech they made. Their lives started to change for the better. They started to see the benefits of the program. They became enthused about the program, and they went to work and their family and said, "This is the most incredible thing you've ever seen in your life. You've got to come to my club." People came in the club. Everybody's winning because we're doing the program. People, members or guests who come to the club, they go, "I've never seen an energy like this before. Can I join?" And we go, "I think we have one application left." Right? "We have one left. We have one left. That's all. If you want to join, this is the last application." It was a joke we had in the club. Anyway. This is where it took off. Now, let me just tell you internationally, there's about 300,000 Toastmasters internationally. Only 15% of Toastmasters complete a speaking or leadership level each year. That means 85% of them are doing something else because nobody does nothing. They're doing something else. And if all we do, my club has a 90% completion rate on the CC. When you get in, we get your commitment to complete the CC and get all the way through it. And what happens, even if they leave the club, people have a product at that point. Who remembers finishing their CC the first time? Nice compliment, nice one. Right? I'm on my 23rd right now. I do one a year. Why? Because I'm in Toastmasters. I do the program. Second reason, I want to support my club. They need my education completion to have a strong club. Third reason, I get benefit out of doing that CC every year. See, I don't speak for 5 to 7 minutes very often. So it's a real challenge for me to put a 5 to 7 minute speech together. This is where it took off. Get every single member of your club to complete a speaking level every year, and you will start to see your club take off doing out of the manual. There should never be a non-manual speech in Toastmasters. If you're doing non-manual speeches, go to Rotary, go to Lions Club, go to Chamber of Commerce, go out in the world and talk. God bless you. You don't need this anymore. This is an exercise program. You come in and you do the program. Speaking frequency. Let's look at the club training capacity. You don't hear about this in Toastmasters. If you have 4 speaking slots in your meeting and you meet once a week, so you meet 50 weeks a year, how many speaking slots do you have in the Toastmasters year? 200. We got some people that went to school. I see that. Okay, 200 speaking slots. How many speaking slots are in a Toastmaster speaking level? 10. How many completions can you get with that training capacity? 20, not 6. You get 6 with the DCP, Distinguished Club Program. I do 30 to 40 speaking education completions in my club every year. Why? Because if I don't, my members lose. If I don't, the club dies. I hear people sandbagging their CCs for next year. All you're saying is, we are such a weak club, we can't produce 4 CCs, 2 ACs next year. We're such a weak club, we can't do that. That's ridiculous. You ought to be able to get, everybody in your club should be getting through those manuals, and your club will win. And you'll have a strong club. Okay? To me, I'll just be honest, there's not a reason in the world that every club in Toastmasters is not President's Distinguished. It's like getting a gold medal in the Olympics for running a 30-minute mile. This existing Distinguished Club Program is such a low bar, and it was set up to try to handle the 20-member clubs and below. Just get everybody up to 20 members and we'll be fine. All right? And it killed a lot of big clubs. But the big clubs are running on their own agenda. They figured it out for themselves, and they're making a dynamic communication and leadership program. Speech evaluation, I'm just going to tell you a couple things about it. It's more important to find what's right than what's wrong. What's right's easy for us. I do a whole program on speech evaluation. I don't have time to get into that. Only pick 1 or 2 items. This isn't a full body scan. You came in, you did your icebreaker. Let me tell you everything wrong with you. Come on. I've been married 23 years. I can get that at home. Okay? God bless my wife. Okay? All your evaluations should be done per the Toastmasters manual. How many speech evaluations did I see somebody, they come up without a manual? Well, I really felt that your speech would have been better. You opened this way, and then your body was this, and your conclusion was that. I'm going, yeah, I know, I gave the speech. We call it coaching in my club. We don't even call it evaluation. The whole purpose is to coach the person to a higher level. So we need to improve the speaker. And they're doing a speech project. Remember, we're a communication and leadership school? The curriculum is the manual. Do the manuals. That's how Toastmasters works. Do the manuals. Last thing is in building membership. And again, I got a whole program on promoting and marketing your club, which Toastmasters does a horrible job of. If you're having a hard time getting memberships, then just understand that we don't teach it well in this organization. Okay? And this is one of the things you have to understand. You have about 1/3 of your membership that's hardcore dedicated members. Just look at your club right now. And if you've got 30 members in your club, you can probably pick 10 people that are hardcore dedicated Toastmasters. You have 1/3 that's there. And God bless them for being there. And you have 1/3 that's going to fall off and have to be replaced. In Toastmasters internationally, we lose about 100,000 people a year. We have a membership level of just under 300,000. I'll be honest, it's really 40%, but we're going to be kind and loving today and say 1/3. Okay? So if you have a 20-member club, understand you're going to have to get 7 members just to stay even. So your membership building aspects are a critical point. Now, how do we build membership? I'm going to tell you the first 2 most important things to have to build your membership. The first one is a dynamic professional meeting, a dynamic club experience. And I'd ask you, if you went to a new restaurant and you went in and the food was bad, the dishes were dirty, and the service was poor, would you go back? If you come to a Toastmasters meeting, it doesn't start on time, it doesn't run on time, it doesn't end on time, the venue's bad, and all the speakers are wishy-washy, would you come back? No. You need to create a dynamic communication and leadership environment, and your club will flourish. You don't expand by lowering the bar. You expand by creating excellence, by pushing yourself and working this through. The second thing is winning members. Winning members have an excitement about the program. They believe in it. People come in, there's an energy that you have when people believe in what they're doing. And these aren't esoterical things. These are real things that you have to be, that person has to have the benefit of the Toastmasters program. And that's why I go through this other stuff. But they're doing the manuals. They're being evaluated by the manuals. They're speaking frequently. They're constantly improving themselves. They will be winning. And you will start to attract membership in. The last thing I'm just going to tell you, the best source of new members are your friends and associates. When they see you changing and you talking to them and bringing them in. There's a lot of things you can do to promote the club. The best source is somebody tells you to come to the club. I'll tell you how I got in Toastmasters. A buddy of mine invited me to the club. 8 times. 8 times. And I finally went, and one of the reasons was to shut him up. But he didn't say, Lance, you're a horrible speaker. You have a tendency to drool a lot and run on and on. Okay? He said, we had so much fun. Oh, I wish you were there. Come to this. Oh, you should have heard the table topics last week. I wish you were there. Every day he'd tell me how much fun they had at their Toastmasters meeting. And a part of me was sort of feeling like I was missing out on something good. Okay? And then I went to the meeting. I'll tell you more about that this evening with my other talk. Here's an overview, and then I have one more thing I want to share with you. Okay, so let's look at this. The first thing is you've got to decide to build your club. Okay? Read the instructions, get out and figure it out. And then beyond that, you got to start figuring out for yourself. Get your members' agreement on what you want to do. Get everybody together and say, do we want to do this? Now, you don't have to have 100%. You just have enough critical mass to move in that direction. When we wanted to be a top 10 club, we didn't have 100% of our members wanting to do that. But we had enough of us that did that when we started to grow, the other people got on board because they saw it was possible. Okay? But you have to have enough agreement to move in a direction you want to go. Create some continuity over the years. Okay, so like as an example, once you've been president in my club, you sit on an unofficial president's council with the responsibility of making sure the successful actions of the club don't fall out. And the president is backed up by the immediate past president to help them if they have any problems. If those two can't resolve it, we call the president's council, which is now most of the clubs since we've been around so long. So if you have a problem with a member, just imagine that like 15 people in the club are going to meet on the problem we're having with you. That alone has enough deterrent just from the fact that we're all going to figure out how to handle the problem you're creating in the club. Okay? Colonel Saunders' secret recipe, start finding those little things you can do and do them exceptionally well. Get the speaking frequency up. Create excellent speech evaluation. Because Toastmasters, we stay in this as long as we continue to improve and put continuous membership building in. Now, I want to just share some stuff with you, but who here would like to have a club twice as strong and twice as good a year from now as you do now? Anybody? Okay, like I say, we are, by and large, an organization that is the blind leading the blind. The reason is we don't have an excellent criteria for what a club is. We don't have an excellent criteria for what speaking is. If we were an exercise program, we'd put a bunch of overweight, out-of-shape people in a room and give them a manual. And they'd open it up and they'd say, well, it says the first thing is the push-up. You do it, I'll evaluate you. Okay, get down on hands and knees, go down. Okay, you're supposed to come back up. Supposed to come back up. Can you come back up? Okay. So, like I do a boot camp, I have professional trainers. I pay more for a boot camp in a week, in a month, than I pay for Toastmasters all year. Because we don't have professional trainers. We are the professional trainers. So in order to actually start handling the blind versus the blind, we need to share our successful actions with each other. And that's really one of the things I decided to do. When I won the World Championship in 2005, I started getting invited out to districts. And my first question was, what am I going to say? I mean, in Toastmasters, I've been doing 5 to 7 minute speeches. One of the first districts I went to was District 66 in Taiwan. And I said, well, what do you want me to do? They said, a 45-minute keynote and 2 hours breakout sessions. And I was on the end of the phone going, okay, I hope I don't repeat myself. Well, I got news. As I started to break out what I knew about Toastmasters, what I knew about creating a club, what I knew about speaking, I have hours of material now because I applied the same basics to what I was doing with my speech competition, what I was applying in my club, and I started teaching that. And I really looked at the fact Toastmasters gave me this opportunity to expand and have the wins in my life that I've had. They gave me the opportunity to have a framework to compete and win a world championship. I want to turn around and support the organization and help other people start to find their voice and create dynamic leadership and communication centers that people can come into these little islands of sanity and start to reignite their own creative abilities and their own free will and find the voice and find what the value is inside of them. We need this. I don't care what society, what culture, what ethnic background, we all need this. Do you guys agree with that? Yes. Okay. I want to just tell you about some of the products I put together over the years. I have a special little package. By the way, I have a speaker's tips card, which is free outside. You can also get these free downloads on my website. And I have an effective speech evaluation tips card, which is out at my table. I would appreciate it if you wouldn't take an inch of them when they're out there. Pick one up for yourself. If you want to take them back for everybody in your club, go, here's Lance's website, download your own. I got a hard copy because I came to the conference. Okay? Thank you very much. I have an hour on building a championship club. Okay, this disc has been used by about 15 districts to help turn their districts around, take them up to be distinguished districts, and helping people to understand the programs or what we did that was outside the Toastmasters program to build the club, the dynamics of managing a club. I've touched on some of it today. I haven't touched on all of it. I have 2 hours on leadership for a championship club. I go through all the meeting roles, all the officer roles. I not only explain how I learned to do them, but I explain how they developed my leadership skills for succeeding outside of Toastmasters. So I don't care how well you speak or lead in Toastmasters. What matters is how are we taking this out of Toastmasters? How are we making a difference in the world? I have an hour on effective speech evaluation. Okay? One of the things, I get to see speech evaluation contests in every district around the world. And it is abhorrent. I'm not going to pull my punches. It's just like, I was in one district, every speech evaluator did it with an acronym. I said, why are they doing acronyms? They said, that's what you have to do to win the contest. Did I mention we're the organization of blind leading the blind? What happened is one guy won the speech evaluation contest 3 times using acronyms, so everybody in the district used acronyms. Your speech was noon. It was new. It was original. You were ornery, and I thought it as a nice message. That's not speech evaluation. Okay. 4 hours on finding your voice. I have my district winning speech with an hour of analysis on it. I have my regional winning speech with an hour of analysis. I have an hour on how to use the Toastmasters program to develop your skills. An hour of speaking outside of Toastmasters. The final one is a DVD, Mastering Your Speech. An hour on how to find your messages. Those of you that were at my seminar last night on finding your voice, I touched on 4 of the 10 principles I learned on how to find my messages, how to find my life energy. Okay. I have an hour on how to practice your speech. You ever practice your speech and it gets worse? That's not practice. You're doing something wrong, right? What would happen if professional athletes practice their trade and they just got to be worse athletes, right? I have an hour on the speech mechanics. And the last one is I have 4 versions of my international speech, starting with what I call the embarrassing and humiliating early version, with analysis on each one as showing how that speech developed. Because I wanted to show people, you just don't sit down and write a great speech. You have to work it and work it and work it and work it and listen to the audience and refine it and change it. And it was that process that really changed my life dramatically. Now, just so you know, while I'm here, I have a special. All this material is about $225 if you bought it individually. I have a club special, I like to say. I encourage you to buy it for your club, share it in the club, so you can build a dynamic club experience. And it's $165 while you're here. It's I take cash, credit cards, checks, and gold bullion. But I can't give you any change for the gold. Okay, I just have to take whatever weight you give me. Anyway, if you're interested in that, the table's outside. If you're not, God bless you. Okay?